see eye to supersize your business. But what if you don't? Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Our idiom or expression for today is see eye to eye. This is another biblical reference, since many of them are, as we're focusing on spiritual idioms, spiritual well-being for the month of April. Now, today's comes from Isaiah chapter 52, verse 8 of the King James Version of the Bible. And it says something to the effect of, "For thou shalt see eye to eye when the Lord shall bring again Zion." Something to that effect. I think I'm paraphrasing, and maybe not in the best way, but it means, and it meant back then, that face to face or in person, people would see God or Jesus again. So what does it mean? What is this idiom, see eye to eye? It means to agree completely, to agree wholeheartedly, to have no misunderstandings, and totally agree and be aligned in whatever the topic is. But what if you don't? Now, I don't know about you, but I think it seems like nowadays and always in business and in life, we tend to disagree with one another more than we agree with one another. So what are some ways to gain alignment, to agree? What's a process to follow when there's conflict involved, when we don't see eye to eye? Seeing eye to eye has both positives and negatives, right? We need an element of different perspective or disagreement or diversity in our decisions, especially as we're growing and supersizing our business. There's got to be some alignment with the vision, but how we get there, people have to be able to agree to disagree and have different methods and different forms of opinion and different areas of expertise that come to play to get the best results for our company and to help us to grow and supersize. So how do we handle this conflict? How do we deal with the times that we don't see eye to eye? Well, first and foremost, we need to remember, and I think it's come home to roost for many of us, that we live in stressful times. Now, in my life, I've pretty much been in turbulent times and stressful times through the majority of my life. And so COVID and the pandemic and politics and religion and all the other things that can cause conflicts and disagreements and people not seeing eye to eye and agreeing with one another, they've been around forever. They just get different coats of paint and different ways of being presented. And we've always lived in stressful times, but we're certainly living in very, very stressful, very turbulent, changing times right now. At least here in the United States, I think that the majority of people would agree that there's this sense that it's super stressful, stuff's changing, we've got massive inflation, all kinds of craziness is going on. And so how do we remember to deal with that stress? Well, step 2 of the process is, when we're not agreeing, when we're not seeing eye to eye with somebody about something, we have to decide if we want to go there. Is it something that matters with respect to supersizing and growing our business? Political beliefs don't matter when it comes to growing and supersizing our business. At least they don't matter when it comes to supersizing and growing my business. Topics of diversity, only viewed in a positive way, contribute to supersizing and growing my business. Otherwise, they don't matter. We want to always be consciously bringing diversity into our organization, but the discussions around it, especially political media generated discussions that are not productive. So decide if you even want to go there. I chose a long time ago in my businesses and in my companies that politics and religion were off the table. They were not part of the conversation. They were not part of the discussion. They were not topics for around the water cooler discussion any more than gossip or trashing other people or was allowed. It's just, no, that's not part of our culture. So decide if you want to go there. Is it worth discussing or having a discussion or a disagreement or to come to some understanding with? We came to an understanding that those topics were personal and individual and weren't subject for discussion in the culture of my businesses, and they still aren't. We just don't usually go there. So decide, number 1, realize that we're living in stressful times and people are going to have lots of disagreements and conflict. We're all exposed to different things and all of our experiences are different. Number 2, decide whether you want to go there or not. Is it even worth discussing or having a conversation? Maybe the conversation is just, hey, we're not going to even go here with this because it's going to hurt someone's feelings. It's going to cause a negative check mark or hatch or ding in our culture, and we don't want that to impact us in any way, shape, or form, because it doesn't really matter. What I believe religiously and you believe religiously has zero to do with how I'm going to grow and build and supersize my business. Number 3, listen for perspective. Listen to understand the other person's point of view, right? Whenever we don't agree with something or we don't see eye to eye, it's a lot of times based on the way we're looking at the situation. So number 4, start the conversation off. I believe in starting negotiations off this same way, because negotiations and seeing eye to eye on something are conflict resolution, right? Usually the only reason you're negotiating is because there's a conflict. One party wants this, another party wants this, and somehow you have to figure out where you're going to meet that everybody's satisfied, gets their needs met, and some of their wants met, right? So listen for perspective. Start the conversation off with understanding, meaning start from the other person's point of view and work your way back to have the conversation. And I hope I'm explaining that clearly. It's really important to let the person that you're not agreeing with know that you're open to starting the conversation where they are. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Negotiations to me are a perfect example of this. Whenever we went into negotiations in different organizations that I've worked with, and whenever I go into a negotiation now, I start off by finding out and listening, where the heck are they, and what is it that they want? What is it that they need? And once I start from there and work with, okay, well, you want this amount of money for your salary. This is all that we can afford. How are we going to meet, and how are we going to figure this out? Maybe there's some creative ways we can find to meet both of our needs. I hope that's a good enough example. Number 5, look for where there is agreement, because although when we're not agreeing and we feel like there's conflict and we're not seeing eye to eye with somebody, once we get into it, we usually realize that we're much more in agreement than we think we are. This reminds me of discussions with my ex-husband. We would think that we were this far apart, but actually once we started talking about it, we realized we were actually in the same exact position and in agreement. We were just describing it differently and approaching it from a different perspective. On number 6, talk less and listen more. Talk less and listen more. The only time we learn anything is when we're listening. When we're talking, we might be teaching something, or usually we're lecturing or pontificating or getting our point across. But it's when we're listening that we figure out everything we need to know to resolve the conflict or to see eye to eye on something. Number 7, avoid using but. Now, I specifically used but in the title of this video today because I wanted to remember that it's one thing we want to avoid. Whenever we say something and then we say but, it totally negates the thing that we say. So if you're trying to give someone a compliment and you say these things and then you say but, and then whatever comes after the but is the only thing that people hear. They've done scientific studies on this. So if you can cut but out of your vocabulary, especially when you're discussing things that there isn't complete agreement on, it will always help you in the end. Number 8, resist being dramatic or provocative, right? There's plenty of drama in the world right now. And when you're not seeing eye to eye, if you up your level of drama or provocativeness or sarcasm or anything, it's going to make it harder to see eye to eye with somebody. Number 9, know that disagreements are okay. They're absolutely okay, right? So often we feel like if we disagree with someone, that's a bad thing. But it's just because we don't see eye to eye on something it's not bad or good. It's just we have a different perspective. We have a different way of looking at it. And how can we find common ground and know that we're more alike than not alike? It's like human beings. We are much more alike than not alike. And then finally, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when it's not a lost cause, but it's not the right time to continue trying to gain agreement and alignment or see eye to eye on something. Sometimes the other person needs to, or you need to walk away and give yourself time to go over the conversation or the situation or the experience, and then come back after having taking a few minutes to think about it, or maybe taking a few days to think about it. This reminds me of, handling any type of conflict or argument. Sometimes we just have to walk away and come back at another time when we are more calm and more rational and more emotionally intelligent, so that we get better results. So I would love to know your favorite way to handle conflict. That would be number one. And number two, have you used this expression? I guarantee I've said many a time, all right, we obviously don't see eye to eye on this. What are we going to do? And then that would begin the process that I just went through of gaining understanding, clarity. A lot of times it's just talking things out and having conversations with people to realize that we really do understand and agree on something. We just are describing it in different ways, or we're coming at it, a problem or a solution, from a different perspective than the person that we're talking with. And even though it doesn't look like on the surface we agree, but we actually do. All right, have an awesome day. I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with another interesting spirit-related idiom or spiritual-related idiom for the rest of this month. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, have an amazing day. See how often you see eye to eye with people or not. All right, see you tomorrow. Bye.